Well, it all started in 2019 when I saw images on TV of CNN and New York Times and everywhere on social media about the Amazon burning. I remember that people were talking about how many football fields per day were losing in the Amazon due to fire, that illegal loggers were going into the Amazon to take out the biggest trees, and it was like devastation everywhere. And I thought, is there a film that really documents what's going on there? Something that will emotionally really tackle people and attach people to the topic so that they would understand what we're losing there. And my research was not really. There's many TV films, there's many series and little stories made about the Amazon, but I didn't see so many cinema films. And I was thinking maybe I could do something there. And that sort of started this whole process of research and looking for a story and finding something special, something that hadn't been told yet. So that's how it all began. When we started, we had a really difficult government, the Bolsonaro regime in Brazil. They were very unfriendly towards investigative journalism or investigative filmmaking. They didn't want you to ask too many questions, pretending often just to be doing a wildlife nature documentary. Nothing political, just to be, under the radar of everything.
Estão invadindo, roubando os nossos territórios. Os rios estão secando.
Well, I really think, a film that you work on for many, many years, where you give everything, you can't kind of let it down in the end, for post-production. And I think the music is a vital component for any film. And if the music works, often the film works, and vice versa. Music can destroy a film too, if you overuse it, if you use it, to over-accentuate emotion or drama or whatever. So it has to be very subtle, nimble, perfect, beautiful, encouraging, inspiring. And that's why we put a lot of attention on music. Having the music composed and using orchestra recordings more than 50, almost 20 years ago. That's when we started doing it on cinema films. And it's been evolving ever since, And then I discovered that here in Austria, we have the Synchron Stage, which is, truly amazing and world-class. And that many composers would dream to be able to record their music here. I'm Austrian, but I haven't lived in Austria for 20 years. And I moved back in 2017. And that's when we started working together. That's when I found out about this studio. For me, it's a dream come true because a lot of things align. One, we have Austrian film funding, which is, government funds, and they want you to spend money in Austria. So the need for, or the want to look for the cheapest orchestra recording that you can afford, it goes away because you have subsidies that want you to record here. And then you have this super high quality studio here. It's beautiful. It really, really, gives the final touch to the film. It's a beautiful experience for our guests, for, the protagonists of the film, for our crew, who have worked with us. It's something that you really cherish and you look forward to, and everyone wants to be here when the orchestra records for the film and you see the giant images on the screen for the first time combined with live orchestra. It's wonderful. We worked with Indigenous people on the crew from the very beginning, right? So Juma Shipaya, who's the main protagonist in the film, she's a producer on the film. We asked her to lead the way and to really help us find the right Indigenous people to work with that she loves and that she thinks are, very high quality and that can really contribute to the film. She got Eric Terena involved. He's an executive producer on the film, but his background is actually in music. Like in Brazil, he's a super famous DJ. He also writes and composes his own music and does huge shows, using traditional instruments from the Amazon. When we invited him to come and join us here, he was like a dream come true, because he's not used to big studios. He's not used to having an orchestra. like he performs in small circles with 2 or 3 other people. So for him, it was an amazing experience. He brought some of his instruments, which we could use to accentuate the music and the orchestra. And I remember him being here and just, performing, seeing the visuals on screen, having this whole ambience of the orchestra around him and really being happy and giving his best. And some of the tunes he came up with and, the instruments and the choices he made really made the soundtrack, extra special, gave it that indigenous kind of feeling, which was also amazing because when we launched the soundtrack in Los Angeles at a big event at Scott Salinas' house, our composer, his studio, it was great because also the indigenous singers came that we had, Joanna Ticuna, she arrived from the Amazon and she was singing, he was performing. Scott was like on the guitar, on the piano, together with Tomas, his co-composer, Tomas Videla. So it was a beautiful experience, yeah. So Scott and I, as well as Tomas, we have now worked together for a long time. Our first film was actually the Ivory game in 2016. Then Sea of Shadows, and now Yanuni, and now we're doing a 4th film on Jane Goodall actually together. I'm a very loyal director. I like to keep working with people that I really enjoy working with. And Scott is one of those people that just does beautiful music. I always fall in love with it. He gives his everything. He works very closely with Tomas Videla, who's a great composer as well. And they draw from each other. And the way we work is that we get together in his studio. We listen to the temp music together. That is usually his music already. Like we use from previous films, the layouts. So he's very familiar with the sounds. He knew how they came to be. And then we try to find the song, the tune of the film. And that is a very creative, immersive process where we brainstorm. I explain the philosophy of the film, of what it means, the deeper level of why we made certain decisions on how to tell the story. And that then inspires him. He sees the images, he hears the backstories, and he finds a tune. And often then he would just grab his guitar or charango and he was like, look, I had this thing in mind. It plays like this, ta 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 ta. And then I'm like, yeah. And then he goes on and he goes on. And then Tomas joins in and it turns into an improv session where they find the tune as we're in the studio and we energize each other and we give feedback and we brainstorm and we're like a little more of this and now a little piano here or, another string, or it has to sound a bit off, like it's too clean. And then we find it, and we look and we find it. And then it usually takes a few days, of sessions like this, when it finally clicks and we're like, this is the sound. This is the sound of the film. Very often, once we have the whole music for the film, I ask to remove the music again and to start without music and to listen to the film without music. And then you start adding the music on an as-needed basis to make sure you're not overusing music, that it's really just where it is. Because sometimes it's even stronger when there is no music, where you thought you would have music, and then you take it away and you're like, wow, now that we have music in these other parts that fit so well, this is actually better in silence. He was introduced to me by a friend of mine who was my co-director on the Ivory game. His name is Keith Davidson, the co-director. And he had heard of Scott Salinas as being a great composer. He really gets deep into, the weeds with you of like, what is it you're trying to tell? What is the music you're looking for? And then he works with you very intensively in a fun way, in a friendly way. And that experience was so great for me that I wanted to work with him again. It doesn't feel like it's a job for him. It's his life. It's like the collaboration is like a friendship that has evolved over time and you just build on that. When we start editing the film, that's when I first talk about the project. So he has it on his horizon, being like, okay, 1 year from now, we're going to be talking about music, and I would love for you to be the composer of the film. So I tell him about the film. He gets involved, he gets excited, he follows the story on various meetings, and he sees on social media what we're doing, so he gets more excited. And then very often he's the first person to see assembled scenes. I remember showing him early cuts from Yanuni, for example, when we only had a 30-minute edit of the film. So it was like the first 30 minutes of assembled scenes were ready, and I wanted to give him the tone of the film. Like, he's often the very first audience we have, because I want him to give us an early assessment of, like, is this working? What are you feeling? Could you make suggestions that we can use for layouts? And then he would put together, compile maybe 30, 40 songs that he thinks could be in that space and send them to us as something to experiment with. Usually we edit for 12 months. So after 3-4 months, he comes in. We discuss the film, see if there's any problems that he sees with how the story unfolds with the narrative of the film. But then also talk about the music choices we made. That's when he's like, I really love the first half, he would say, for example. But then in the second half, I think things are missing because the film is going into these areas of emotion, and I don't feel your temp music is hitting it. There is something missing. We could try something more, extreme, something more dark, something in that space. And then he will sometimes play some tunes and give us examples. And we're like, yeah, that is very interesting. Look, when we come here, it's always like a highlight. It's like a feast, It's like we come here to celebrate the film because we know it's going to be a beautiful experience. We know the music will sound wonderful because we've heard the temp layouts, and we're like, sure, now this will be an amazing time to experience it. It's very emotional. What I really enjoy very much is coming inside here and sitting back there at the couch somewhere back there and just listen to the raw music and seeing the images on screen and seeing it come to life. I think it's amazing how professional everything is here. Like, it's totally, it's on the clock, everyone's on time, people perform with perfection. I know that Scott, for example, is very, very happy with the orchestra. He says he needs very few repeats. It's usually on the spot. He just varies a little bit. So the technical qualities of the musicians is stunning. You always get everything done in the time that you think you will need, because they will execute on the dot. It will just be perfect every time in a different way. It's an amazing experience, and every time I look forward to that experience. Every film I'm like, wow, it's going to be so amazing when we come to Synchron Stage, where it all comes together. And Bernd Matzek is really an amazing mixing engineer. Working with him is wonderful. He's a super nice guy, but he's also very professional, and he can really max out on what you have recorded. You may think you have heard the music before, right? Because it was made with the composer and you have heard the layouts, but once it's in Bernd's studio and you hear it in Atmos or in 7.1 and you see how it's all coming together and becomes alive, really. And in our final mix, where we put all together the voice and the film and the music, that's when we can use what he delivers to really perfection it in the final mastering of the film. Yeah. We've worked with Leonardo DiCaprio for 10 years now. We first started working together on the Ivory game. Then he was involved in Sea of Shadows. Actually, that film was his idea. And then on the premiere of Sea of Shadows, he asked me what's next, which was just when the Amazon was burning and everyone was talking about the Amazon. And I said, you know what? I think I want to do a film on the Amazon. And he was all in from the very beginning. And he's like, yes, absolutely, I will support this.
Her resilience and clarity in this film underscore the urgency of
He wants to help in whatever way he can with his name and name recognition to help put films out that can make the world a better place, that can actually make a difference on an impact side, on the ground. So we've had a really good collaboration. Our fourth film coming out this year on Jane Goodall is again with him as a producer. And by now he's become a friend, So when I'm in Los Angeles, often we see each other and just talk about, where we are and about the next project or about what could be done to support the current project. And it's a great collaboration.
I want to thank Richard and the entire team for helping to tell her story here tonight. In her words, the forest is our mother. She feeds us even when we forget to thank her.
So I talk about global topics because I think as a filmmaker, that's my personal decision, I want to dedicate my time and my talent and my creativity to having an impact on this planet and doing something that can make it a little bit better for us. I want to support Indigenous communities. I want to get people to think about climate change. I want in a different way. I want them to think about their personal lives and what they can do to contribute every day to make the world a little bit better. I try to make them personal because I feel people will connect more to a film if they are personally attached to the story that they're being told and if you can identify with the subject of your film. If you're just talking about the issues, you're often, in danger of lecturing people. I don't want to lecture anyone. I just want them to feel something. As a director, as you go on the film festival circuit, there is a little snag in the system, which is like, once you're out there starting your festival tour, you're not actually sitting through the films anymore because you can see your film the 100th time. The best experiences seeing the film is the first world premiere, because that's when you're in a room, usually packed, big room, 600-700 people. For us, it was at the Tribeca Film Festival closing night. We had big celebrities in the room. We had Robert De Niro there. There was Leonardo DiCaprio there. And you, for the first time, see it under the best possible circumstances. A huge screen, amazing sound. And that's when it really hits you, like you have made a movie. And here we are all together watching it and experience it. That's when you're really happy. And those are the moments that you make this film for.